Okay. Now we understood the three types of cryptographic algorithms. Now let us try to look at the digital signature. Okay. One thing we are very clear that whenever we involve in a communication, okay, along with the communication, whenever you are trying to send a communication, we want to have a digital signature attached with that, so that tomorrow we'll have a mechanism to verify whether it is really initiated from that particular entity or not. Just like a way we have approvals in the physical world. So whenever you sign on a particular paper, it can be verified by anyone tomorrow that yes, this person has seen the paper and he has moved that particular paper by putting a signature on that. So we want something similar in digital world. So you will before you initiate a communication, we want to you want to attach a digital signature along with that, so that whoever receives that communication, they'll be able to verify, or with the third party, or with the in the law of court or something like that, we'll be able to verify whether it is really initiated from there. Okay. So what is that? Only a signing authority can sign a document, but everyone can verify the signature. Hope you understand. Same thing in the physical world, right? A signing authority can do that, but everyone should be able to verify. Signature is associated with a particular document. As I told you, it's not that you take a rubber stamp and put on all the approval papers. It is not like that. Each putting a signature on each and every paper is relevant, because you are approving the contents of that particular document. Okay. Same thing, signature is associated with a particular document. Signature of one document cannot be transferred to the another document. Okay. With these same basics, we talk about something about digital signature. How digital signature is generated. Okay. So digital signature is basically an authentication mechanism which enables the creator of a message, that means whoever is initiating a message, to attach a code that acts as signature. Okay. They'll be attaching a digital signature, which is a code along with the message or a document. A code is attached, which can be utilized by the people to verify at a later point of time. How do you generate that code from the sender end? The objective is to provide a mechanism so that the document details can be verified whether really this person has initiated or not. For that purpose, so what will happen is that generally what happens is, whatever the message which is trying to send, okay, will be passed through a function. Whatever the document, first you will try to message, you'll pass it through a function. Generally this function is a hash function. Okay. So I want to send a document. Okay. So that document I'll pass it through a hash function. What do I get it as an outcome of hash function? I'll get a message digest. This message digest I'll encrypt with my private key. Okay. So this particular thing, the document, first I'll pass it through a hash function, then message digest I'm encrypting with the sender's private key. This becomes a digital signature for this document. So what we can verify is that anyone can verify whether it is originating only from Lakshmi and the content is intact. So both can be verified. So that the code what I generated at sending end is called as a digital signature. So encrypt a small block of bits, that is a function of the document. So hash function is one of the function which is popularly used in the digital signature. So which will give me a message digest which is specific to that particular document and will encrypt with the sender's private key. That hash message digest will be encrypted with the sender's private key. Along with the document, we will try to send this to the other end. This serves as signature that verifies the origin and the content. And SHA-1 and the other hash function can be used for this particular purpose. Okay. Now, hope you understood what is a digital signature. So the sender enables some kind of code from the sending end, which can be used by the various parties to verify whether it is really initiated from that particular person and the content is intact. Both the purposes are done. For that, we depend on both hash function as well as a public key cryptographic algorithm. Now, hash function helps us to come out a derivative from the document, a small piece of code, derivative of the document. Okay, that is nothing but message digest. Now, I will depend on public key cryptographic algorithm, where I use the sender's private key and pass it through the public private key algorithm, this hash message digest, to get me the digital signature, which will be attached along with the message so that people can. Now, you may ask one question. Now, I am not providing confidentiality. My message is still going in the plain text. See, now we have provided only one purpose of enabling digital signature, but we are not targeted for the confidentiality. So if you want to provide confidentiality, you want to provide key exchange, you want to provide digital signature, all this, you have to use a combination of all these algorithms, which I'll be trying to tell in the next slide. Just have a look at it. See, now my objective is I want to provide digital signature for verification purpose. I want to provide confidentiality, and I want to have a key exchange also done so that the session key can be established between the two. Just have a look at it. This I will explain it in the 2 steps process. Okay. First, I am passing the message through a hash algorithm. It can be SHA-1, SHA-256 or MD5. You can choose one of the standard algorithm, or depending on the suitability and depending on the present day scenario, you take that. It will give a message digest. Now, this message digest, we are trying to pass, is encrypted with the private key of the sender through the public key cryptographic algorithm like RSA or something. We are encrypting that particular message digest with the private key of sender. What we are getting? Digital signature. Okay. Now, this digital signature helps me to prove whether it is really initiated from so and so sender, because sender private key is used. And then content also, message digest, if I verify with the hash function again with the message, I'll be able to tally whether same message digest is received or not. So I'll be able to verify the origin and the content, but still my message is in the plain text. If someone modifies the message or something, I'm not providing the, I may detect the changes, but confidentiality is not ensured. People can tap the communication. For that reason, I will pass it through the next step. These two, I will pass it through, what is that? One, I am generating one session key at this particular end. Okay, I am generating a session key. Okay, so what I am trying to do, both message and digital signature, I'm encrypting with a session key at this particular sender end. So what I'm getting, encrypted message and signature I'm trying to get. Is it clear? Now, whatever one-time symmetric key which is generated, okay, how do I give it to the other end? As I told you, normally sharing the key for that we depend on the public key cryptographic algorithm here. So what I'm doing, the same key, I'm encrypting your message and digital signature to get that, and the same key is encrypted with the receiver's public key. Just see here, so that receiver alone will get back to this particular. So now this encrypted message and signature, encrypted one-time key, both will be sent to the receiver. Okay. Now what the receiver will do? Receiver first he will try to apply his private key, because the sender has encrypted the session key with receiver's public key, so that only receiver will be able to get back the key. Okay. So he will pass this encrypted one-time key. He will pass this particular block through using the private key. What he will get back? He will be able to open up the session key. Once you open up the session key, he will decrypt this encrypted message and signature with this session key. He will be able to open up message as well as digital signature. Once he will get the message as well as digital signature, what he will do? He know that this is signed by so and so sender. He will apply the public key on the digital signature to open up the because it is signed by encrypted with the private key of the sender. He will use the public key on the digital signature to get back the message digest. After that, he will apply hash function on the message to get the message digest, and then compares both the things. If whatever message digest which is generated at the receiver end is same as what is received, then definitely it is understood, it is not tampered, and it is sent by the right person. So a combination of all these things are used in order to provide the different security services in our network. Okay, so this is all about the importance of different cryptographic algorithms, and then also the importance of digital signature. Okay, now coming to this particular thing, what is digital certificate? Okay, so we said that, okay, public key cryptographic algorithm is very important, all that kind of things, right? So that public key solves various problems, it is flexible and other things. But now we talk about one particular problem. Okay, let me stress on that. Then you'll be able to understand the need for a digital signature. Okay, again, we'll go back to that particular thing. So as I told you, like if I want to use public key cryptographic algorithm, I need to establish a key pair. Okay, so suppose let us say Naresh and myself want to share some information. Okay, say share some documents using public cryptographic algorithm. So what I will do, both of us will do is that I will have my key pair generated, public private key, and then Naresh also has got public private key. So Naresh will try to broadcast or share his public key with everyone, whereas his public private key will keep it with him itself. Similarly, I will share my public key with everyone, private key is with me, right? So whenever I send my public key, Naresh will try to add in his local the system at some particular the data structure where we'll say Lakshmi's public key so and so. And then later when we are involved in the communication sharing documents, the keys will be used appropriately. But the major problem is what is that is how Naresh has to trust when Lakshmi shares that this is my public key. But how do you trust the message? It might be possible that there can be an adversary who is going to act like Lakshmi and shared his or her public key as Lakshmi's public. It is possible, right? So instead of me, someone has projected as Lakshmi's public key so and so. What happened? They have generated a key pair of their own and projected Lakshmi's public key as so and so. Then what happened? Naresh does not know about it. He will trust and he will add the whatever is there in his local data structure, indicating that Lakshmi's public key shown so. Later, when he want to communicate something secretly with me, some document he has to share, what he will do is that he will go to the keychain and he will try to retrieve the Lakshmi's public key and sends the document to me, expecting that I'll be able to decrypt because the private key is with me. But what happened? Whatever the key which is available with him is not of Lakshmi, but some adversary. Okay, what happened when he encrypts that particular thing with the public key of that and sends it over the wire? Adversary has got the private key to decrypt. So something which Naresh want to share confidentially with me, with Lakshmi, the adversary could get that particular thing. So now problem is, though public key cryptographic algorithm is very sophisticated, it is able to solve the problem. The problem is, how do you trust when someone says this is my public key or this is so and so public key? That is where the digital certificate come into problem. So it is giving an answer to the internet trust problem. How do you trust when some message comes that so and so person's keys are so and so, something like that? Okay, so trusted third parties issue certificates to people or companies who prove their ID. Okay, now what happened? Especially we use it for the distribution of public key. Okay, now when someone says that this is the my public key, Naresh will not trust. The Lakshmi's public key so and so means Naresh will not trust. What Naresh expects is that Lakshmi's credentials are verified by someone, Lakshmi's identification is verified, and then some by trusted party, and it is available in the signed envelope. Okay, so that is exactly called as a digital certificate. We have a trusted parties called certification authorities who are authorized by the Chief Controller Certification, CCS. Okay, who were given the privilege to verify the identity of the people, and then after verifying the identity, they will try to bind the person with the public key and they try to sign that. CA will sign that particular thing. Trusted third party will sign that. Okay, that is called digital certificate. So I will get the public keys only through the digital certificate, which are given coming through the authorized persons rather than directly accepting from the person. Okay, see, earlier in the PGP predicate privacy kind of solutions, the digital certificate concept was not there. So people used to trust the other person through the human notion of trust. Suppose, let us say I know Naresh. Naresh says that Murthy is my friend and he says that he will introduce me to Murthy. So if Murthy says this is my public key, I accept because it is coming through a known channel. That kind of web of trust concept was used in the PGP. Whereas in the present systems, all the enterprise networks and all, you don't trust on this web of trust because human notion of trust will not be appropriate, because we should have a professional way of dealing with this. Trusted parties are enabled by the government who verify the identity of a person or the service, and they issue the digital certificate. So public keys are distributed through the digital certificate, and we try to get them only through the digital certificate. Okay. So what all it will contain? A digital certificate typically contains the owner's public key, owner's name, expiration date, name of the issuer, serial number of this thing, digital signature of the issuer, and there is some standard X.509 standard which is used to represent this particular thing. Okay, so this we'll try to skip. Okay, these are template of X.509. Okay, so that continuously it is evolved, and then all the protocols will follow this kind of thing standard. Globally, people follow this standard. Okay. Along with that, actually, we also regularly keep talking about public key infrastructure, right? So what happens is, whenever you have public key cryptographic algorithm, we need to have a kind of infrastructure, software and hardware infrastructure to be enabled by the government. So using which, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to manage these public keys. Okay, we are trying to manage these public keys. Okay, so what is that we are doing? See, we should have a Chief Controller of Certification Authority, CCA. We have certification authorities who try to verify. There are RAS, registration authorities, who support the CAs in verifying the credentials. CA will issue, RAS will verify on behalf of CAs. So like that, And we have the directory services where the digital certificates are maintained. What if the key is compromised private key? There should be a revocation certificate like that. There is a kind of infrastructure which is enabled in order to manage this kind of digital certificate. That is exactly called as a public key infrastructure. Okay, also called as a PK. Okay, so public key infrastructure is a set of rules, policies, hardware and software and procedures needed to create, manage, distribute, use and store digital certificate and manage the public key encryption. Okay, so the purpose of this is to facilitate secure transfer of information for a range of network activities like e-commerce, internet banking, or any kind of. Okay, so you can go through later. Just gives a pictorial representation. Also, over the network, the nonce and timestamp are very crucial. See, it may happen. See, as part of our messages which are exchanged between the client and server, it is possible that adversary may try to tap the communication. They can replay after some time. Okay. So timestamp is very important. The time at which it is dispatched, all that we should record so that we can avoid replaying after some time. Okay, we'll get it. Okay, whether it's a old message or similarly some random numbers as part of the messages, nonce it is called as. These will also help to detect the replay. Okay, so till now we discussed about the various cryptographic algorithms and what kind of services we can see. Just let me summarize. The services which we are trying to look for in our network security is: one is integrity, one is confidentiality, one is authentication, one is the repudiation, non-repudiation. Okay, integrity is provided through the hash functions. Confidentiality is supported through the cryptographic algorithms. It can be through public or symmetric also, both are possible. Authentication to verify the owner credentials origin, we try to depend on public key cryptographic algorithms where we use some kind of digital signatures to verify the authenticity of the owner. And in order say authenticity of the whether it is coming from the right person or not. And along with that, digital signatures will also help us to prove whether a person is claiming the right thing or not. Okay. And if anyone says that I was not involved in the communication and all, we can definitely try to say that through digital signatures we'll be able to prove. Okay. So that is all about the various services. And it's not a single algorithm. All the algorithms are equally important in order to provide the different services. You cannot say only one algorithm will help me. Combination of all these algorithms we have to use. And we also saw that just like that, we cannot get the public key of other people. We should verify and then only we should get. That is how the digital certificates are helping. Okay. Now, what exactly is network security protocol? Okay. See, now I think I'll not spend much time. Actually, I'll just rush up on this thing. Hope you are able to understand. Okay. In case you have any issues and all, you can just put it in the chat. Okay. We'll just discuss. So is it okay? We can continue some more time where I'll throw some light, because day in day out we are using these protocols, but we should have an idea about what exactly is these protocols and other things like that. Okay. See, now, as you are aware, any protocol, when you try to talk about a protocol in a communication, is nothing but set of rules exchanged for a specific purpose, right? So now when I talk about HTTP protocol, the set of messages are exchanged across browser and the web server, so through which you are trying to allow the person to access the World Wide Web. Similarly, Telnet is another protocol access between the Telnet client and Telnet server in a network, which will enable the remote login, okay, for the user. Similarly, FTP for file transfer purpose. Now, when you talk about network security protocol, so it is nothing but the set of rules exchanged between the two entities through which they need to establish the security across the two entities. What all need to be done when you enable the security? It can be authentication. It has to take care of authentication of both the ends. See, reason is whenever you say that any citizen, like you use this public key algorithm or symmetric key algorithm to do all these things, people will not appreciate. They are not interested in that. People want a ready-made solutions, okay, which will be get integrated in our browser or something like that, or on our end system, so that automatically the security is enabled internally. So that means you are trying to build the set of rules across the two ends through which you will enable all these features, whatever we studied till now. That means to be able to authenticate both ends, whether right people and right systems are involved in the communication. You make sure that data is not modified. You make sure that the confidentiality of the message is safeguarded. You also have the key exchange. I don't want to have a single key set up throughout. I want the message keys to be set up. And also, I want to change the suite of algorithms also. See, in order to enable all the services, I need to have one combination of all these kind of algorithms. Like I should have one symmetric algorithm, I should have some asymmetric algorithm, I should have an hash algorithm, and I also need to have some kind of compression algorithm also. Generally, all the protocols will have the compression algorithm. So one combination of this kind of algorithm of each type is called one cipher suit. In some of the cases, you may not always limit to only one set of algorithms. See, in one communication, I may prefer triple DES. In another communication, I may prefer AES algorithm, like that. So if the protocol internally helps me to negotiate the cipher suit, it is always better. It will give me the better security.